Hey everyone, back again. Right, today we're going to go into a topic which is actually quite a big one and one that was actually asked about quite a lot in the lead up to the course, and that is fasting. So, fasting is something that is become quite well linked with keto because a lot of people who actually undertake a keto way of eating will also embark on intermittent fasting in particular. Now, this is a big topic, and so given we've got the 14 days, we've got one day to talk about fasting, but realistically, we could probably spend 4 or 5, maybe more days talking about fasting. So please bear in mind that this is a very short summary of the topic. I'll try and cover a way of fasting, which I think is quite easily managed in the, earlier stages of going into the keto way of eating. But it is by no means the encyclopedia of everything about fasting by any means. I'll give you some tips and some ideas to go and follow. But I would say if you're really interested in fasting as well, one of the things I would do is follow Dr. Ken Berry on YouTube. He has quite a number of videos on this topic. And I think in terms of independent ideas and independent thoughts, he's one of the people I would certainly look to as a someone to get good information from. So many of the other people you see on YouTube, etc., are driven by commercial agendas in terms of what they are selling as products that go along with anything that they promote. So I think, from what I can see, and again, I can't tell you this 100%, but my best impression is that he would be a good person to follow in terms of fasting. And he's got quite a few videos on this topic. So with that being said, I'll go into a bit of a summary and things that I think that we as a group can take away from fasting, what it will do for us, and also how we can easily get into it without having to worry about people talking about sort of 6-day fast, etc. We're not going to that level. We're talking about a way of easing ourselves into fasting if that's something we're interested in. The other thing I did want to say here is that because you're doing keto, you do not have to do fasting. If it's not something that appeals to you, if it's not something that you feel like comfortable with, then by all means stick with just the normal way of eating. The way that we've promoted over the last 8 to 9 days is still a very effective way of improving your health. So this is just for people who would like to take it to the next level. I guess it helps to, supercharge some of the benefits that we get from going the keto way of eating. But it's not not compulsive. It's not something you have to do, and it's something that I know people are interested in. So I'm going to cover it as a topic today. So let's just start off with what are the things that may be interesting for people who are looking at fasting, and what is it that it potentially does for you. So pardon me as I look away. I've got a bit of a list. I want to make sure I don't miss any of the key things. But a few things that help you do. First of all, it really helps to promote weight loss, and the great thing about it is that it's helping doing that through fat loss specifically, as opposed to sometimes people can lose weight and you can be losing muscle as well as fat. This is really focused in on a good. If you're doing fasting right, it'll be focusing on losing fat and not losing muscle or anything like that. It can help with an increase in energy. It promotes a thing called, I'm going to have to say this right, I can never quite say the word, but autophagy, which effectively is when you're fasting, your body is going through a phase where it starts to break down the ailing skin, and so your dead skin and things like that, and will start to actually use that to basically regenerate good parts of your body. So it's like a refresh or a reset, if you like. So that's a really good thing to have happen. That's something that does happen when you undertake a fast. It reduces your insulin levels, so that can be very helpful, particularly if you're diabetic. So people going keto and fasting can be a very effective way of tackling type 2 diabetes. Again, with anything around those type of topics, obviously consult with your doctor or your medical practitioner, but it can be a really effective way of helping to do just that in terms of managing your insulin levels. It can lower bad cholesterol, which is obviously a good thing. It can promote longevity. It increases testosterone, whether you are male or female in your body, if you're doing fasting right. So that can be a really positive thing to help make sure you maintain your energy, stamina, and help to increase your longevity, which is obviously good. It's been shown to help tackle some neurological diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And again, I don't have any particular medical science to go with that, but it's something that I have read. So worth investigating if that's something that you're interested in. So just look that up yourself. But I've read that a few places that it has been shown to help in those areas. It can help with your memory and boost brain function. And also can help with your skin conditions. So people who have bad skin conditions often see improvements when they start to include intermittent fasting into their regimes. And last, and not necessarily, they can then play plenty of other things that will benefit, but it can help with things like anxiety and depression. So again, it's been things that I've read that they can actually really help in those areas. So if that's something that is an issue for you, then maybe worth investigating some more. Excuse me. Now, when it comes to fasting, you'll see lots of different ways of fasting. What I'm going to talk about today, as said, is the easy approach, if you like. Now, a couple of things to say is, first of all, best not to try fasting until you're really getting fat adapted and you've got your eating under control. So, at this stage, we're, maybe a couple of days in for a lot of people. I'm covering it in this part of the course, but really it's something that you would start to look at once you've fat adapted. You've got things moving, you're in ketosis, and you're starting to see some benefits of the, weight loss from being in keto. Then start to look at the fasting. I wouldn't be sort of kicking off your change of eating and you trying to include fasting at the same time, because your body, as we've talked about on this journey, has been going through changes, and it's a significant change. So don't try and shock it with too much all at once. So wait until you've got progress, got your eating under control, you feel like you're in control of that, then start to look at fasting. So that's a really important one. Second one is that really make sure that you do that a little bit more research. So this is a taster, a sampler of fasting. Do a little bit more research for yourself personally, and make sure you're prepared and ready, because again, it's totally safe if you do it properly. It's something we naturally do anyway. Everyone has a natural fast in their day, and that's when they're asleep. So that's for most people 6 to 8, maybe 9 hours a day when they're not eating, and so that's what we're going to talk about here is just expanding that window a little bit, and a 16-8, which is just 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of non-eating. 8 hours of eating. I'll get that right. So 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating is really sounds a bit difficult when you just say it like that. But when you consider that maybe 8 hours of that you're already sleeping anyway, it's really just expanding our window of when we don't eat. And I'll share a couple of tips on that to make it nice and easy in a minute. When it comes to eating, as I said, what I would suggest if you're interested in this way is that if you have your evening meal at maybe 6 p.m. and then try and have your breakfast at 10 p.m. the next morning, that doesn't sound like it's overly onerous. And in effect, what you've done is have a 16-hour fast. Now, after you've eaten your meal, you can still have a glass of water, and make sure that you're staying hydrated. And again, first thing in the morning, wake up, have a glass of water, a couple of glasses of water, and for most people, that's a good way of getting into this way of fasting. Now, 16-8 is the fast that's sort of recognised as being an entry level, if you like, but you don't have to go straight to 16. So if you have a normal, non-eating window of 8 hours when you're sleeping, maybe just try and take that to 9 hours the first day, and maybe do that for a few days, and then 10 hours, and then 11 hours, and so on. And just slowly increase your non-eating hours to be up to 16. Because at 16 and then up to 18 hours a day is when they pretty much recognise that you're starting to get a lot of the really good effects of fasting. But 16-8 is a really good way to go. You also may choose not to do it every day of the week. You may decide to have it Monday, Wednesday, Friday to start with, or you may do it, the 5 days of the week, or you may just do it the weekends. It will, something you can fit in around your work schedule, around your life, and really just get used to it. Don't push it. If you feel like it's not, doing good things for you, then, you've got the option to stop straight away, of course. So, just find a way that works for you. But as I say, just doing that thing that we've sort of talked about with our eating, where you just gradually ease your way into it. That's a great way to go. So get that up to that 16 hour if you can. And many people actually, once they get to that point, quite easily will go to a 1 meal a day and maybe 20-hour fast. So really it's something that just is about finding something that works for you. And the thing that you may be struggling with at this early stage is thinking, well, wow, I've struggled not to eat for 2 hours, when I've started keto. But what you'll find as you start to go through the process of getting fat adapted, your body just doesn't require the same amount of food. And a fat-heavy diet will actually keep you feeling satiated for longer. Combine that with water input and keeping hydrated, and you'll find that many people will find that's an easy thing to do. The 20 hours. Personally, I found the 16-8 one actually has worked something for me. I don't do it every day, but I do aim to have an early meal and then breakfast about 10 o'clock the next morning. And when I wake up in the morning, I have water. Now, I also have a bone broth to start with, to start the day, and that'll put me through till sort of 10, maybe 11 in the morning, depending. Now, that's a bit of a controversial one. Some people will say, bone broth breaks a fast. Other people will say it's fine, but it's worked for me. So, that's what I go with. There are, different views on this. Some people will say that, you can have your bulletproof coffee, the coffee with butter or cream, and that will not break your fast. Other people say it will. Really, anything that spikes your insulin will break your fast. So, they're the things to look out for. And again, it's just about finding what works for you. A couple of things to say is that when you are fasting, you really need to make sure that you're getting your magnesium and your salts and your potassium. So we talked about that a little bit in the last couple of days. Dr. Berry talks about that as well, and he shares that his sort of go-to thing that he takes while he's on a fast is the Keto Chow electrolyte drops. So you might want to check that out. So that's Keto Chow electrolyte drops. So they give you a good hit of magnesium, salts, and potassium as well. Again, I don't know whether that's a recommended thing by many people or not. I say he's someone I follow, and I think it's his advice is been very good. So that's something to look into. But make sure you're keeping those salts up, because we really need to make sure we do that to maintain our overall health and stop those the bad feelings that will come along. Any time that you're feeling like you've got a headache, any of those things, it generally is the salt levels that are causing you problems. So make sure you stick with that. Now, there's a lot of information there. I know it's a very short introduction to what is, as I said at the beginning, a big topic. Any questions, feel free to let me know. As I said, there's a lot there. If it's something that's really popular or people have a lot of questions, we may do a supplementary video on the topic. I'll find more information to share with you. But if that's good, then hopefully it helps. As I say, start easy, build up, see if it works for you. Make sure you're feeling good on it, because as I said, I know a lot of people who get really good results and would swear by it. Other people say not. So you need to find what works for you. Anyway, I hope that's helpful, and we'll look forward to catching up tomorrow with some more information. And as I said, any questions, feel free to let me know. All the best. Bye.